It's been a few days since I showed anything of this particular bit of weaving, so I'm going to tighten up my work and show you a little bit of this. This is that same shawl still, but I think I mentioned in an earlier video that this is double weave. So let's start out by just taking a few shots across the weft here, and then I'll explain a little bit more about double weave. Keep my thread straight. So, top layer going from right to left. Now bottom layer going from right to left. Now top layer going from left to right. And bottom layer going from left to right. So did you see that I'm using two separate shuttles and I'm doing 2 layers? So let's show you a little bit easier that 2 layers. So I've got a stick here, just a plain garden variety, very thin stick. Actually it's an old wooden yardstick that I cut in half and sanded the ends. But what I want to show you is that there's actually 2 weaving layers here, and you can see this and like this. Now the weaving is at this point, so I can go through and I've really got 2 separate weaving layers. I may need to lower the camera just a little bit more so you can really see that. I'm going to try that. Alright, looking at the weaving of this double weave shawl from the side, I've got 2 separate shuttles, and if you can notice, one of them is a little bit darker wood than the other, and I just use that as a visual reminder to myself which one's which. I always use the lighter color on the top and the darker color on the bottom. But what I'm going to do is just take a quick bit of weaving 4 times across. So this is going to be left to right, excuse me, right to left, top layer. Whoa, got the camera too close. I hit that. Yeah, that's better. Now we'll do right to left, bottom layer. Now we'll do left to right, top layer. And left to right, bottom layer. So let's move the shuttles out of the way just to make this easier for you to see. And what I want to do is show you that I've really got 2 totally separate layers. Taking this old wooden yardstick and I've cut it in half lengthwise, so it's only 18 inches. But please notice I've got 2 separate layers that I'm completely weaving. This is the top layer, and down here is the bottom layer. And even down here I can run this yardstick right through there. On the other side. And you can see I've separated the layers. So I've really got 2 separate weaving layers. So I'm using 2 shafts to weave tabby on the top and 2 shafts to weave tabby on the bottom. And that's what my goal is to do, so that's how I'll get the L shape eventually. And I'll show you that when I get to it. But I just thought I'd show you this process. Now let's see if I can't just move this camera up, and that's my tripod making all that racket. We'll back out a little bit and give you another view of this. let's again take a look from the side. You can see the line of actual weaving is here, but I've got two separate layers here. So, thought I'd show you that. This is kind of a half-finished shawl, and there's more to go, but this is what I've got so far. Hello again. It's been a while since I showed you much of this double weaves shawl work, and I have now reached the point of, after a few days, of weaving most of the shawl where it is two single layers, and I'm just beginning to weave the two layers together. So what I want to do is turn the camera around and show you how much I have woven together so far, and then I'm going to ask for some help with someone else holding the camera, and I'll show you how I'm going to how I do this weaving together of the two layers. So here we go, the camera turning around, and you can see right where I've got my hand, this is the normal edge, and this is, you can see the two layers. And here's where I've started weaving them together. And then here's the weft threads that are still to be woven. Now the way this weaving together works, because it's two layers, we go around the back of the loom and snip off one thread. And in the case we're going to do this, I'm going to snip off one thread from the top layer, and I'm then going to pull it through and weave it through as the weft of the bottom layer. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'm going to hand off the camera as I do this. So come on in closer here. I'm grabbing the first thread from this next layer. That's this one.
I'm going to go on the other side.
Well, I'm going to move in a minute anyways.
I know, but you can see better this way rather than your arm.
So we'll pull that thread through. It's a top thread. You might be able to see that there. Now we'll open up the bottom layer and just take a stick shuttle and push it through. Pull it through, set everything down, separate the layers just a little bit so I've got a little bit of separation there. Pull that tight, and I've got much less tension. Now we're going to do the same thing one more time. We'll take the next thread, cut it off, pull the thread through. So this was from the bottom layer, so now I'm going to push it through the top. You'll be able to see it a little better up here. There we go, there's that thread. Laying in the top layer. Separate the layers just a little bit. By separating the layers a little bit, I should get a better fold where the join is. Okay, so that's the process. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way across. And I'll show you some more of this as I get closer to the end of it. But this is the beginning. And I think you can see that what I'm doing is taking a thread from each layer and converting it from a warp to a weft. Well, as you can see, I've gotten a lot farther along with this angular movement down to the end here, and it's getting to be a fairly small amount of warp threads left. And I'm still picking up, cutting one at the back and bringing it forward. So I've just cut one from the top layer, and I'm going to have to weave it through the bottom layer. So we'll open up, and I'm no longer using a shuttle because it's such a small space. I'm using my hand, and my beater has been replaced with a little comb type pick, or pick type comb. Pick up the next thread and go through on top. By the time you reach this point in an L-shaped shawl, or anything L-shaped like this, the tension is now very loose on here. I need some tension, but it's not as much as it would be under normal weaving. And the other thing I have to do is I have to occasionally beat from the side, because that's my end piece, and the last couple of warp threads just kind of slide out there. I have to go around the back and cut the next group of threads. So here's my next thread. It gets really slow and putsy at this point, as I think you can see. So there's a top one going to the bottom, and here's a bottom one coming through the top. And again, I'm going to grab my handy little white beater, and hopefully you can see there that this two warp threads here have now become weft threads going across, and this is very slow. A few other things to note to help support this. I have got right here a couple of sewing needles put through, and they're tied to, I don't know if I can find anything that'll make them more easily visible, maybe here, some monofilament fishing line. I've forgotten it. I think it's about 4 or 5 pound test. But it's just, those are going back, they're pinned into the body of the shawl. They're going to the back, and I've got some very small weights on the back, and this is just to help hold a little bit of light tension on my warp. So we only got a little bit farther to go with this, and when I get to the very end of it, I will show you what I'm doing there. But you can see this is the end of my threads. Okay, I'm very close to the end here. You can see not many threads left. Instead of wandering around to the back of the loom now, my wife's at the back, and she's cutting the threads and making them available to me to pull through. So in each of the layers I've only got about 8 threads left. And I've really loosened up on the tension a lot now. Right now the hardest part is that the warp thread in the very end, there's nothing to continue holding it in. we are effectively done. Just cut the last ones off. We're off. Take out the sewing needles and I purposely left a lot of unwoven warp at the front end so as that I would have it for making a fringe. So now I'm just going to cut off way down here. I'm going to move the camera and stand up and unfold this and show it to you. Here we have the straight off the loom finished piece, and you can see that diagonal line there. And what that allows me to do is pull it apart and have an L shape. So each of the layers blends at the back and we get an L shape. And that's the goal of this. And I still have to put some fringes on, and I'll show you that process. But there's our L-shaped piece of material. Maybe what I'll do is lay it out on the floor, and so you can see the whole piece all at once. We'll do that next. Alright, so here's the piece laying on the floor, and I'm showing you just one end of it. And we're going up toward the part that I started weaving the two ends together, and there that is. And here we start down the other layer of the double weave to the beginning again. So that's the entire piece laying on the living room floor, and you can see why it's called an L-shaped double weave shawl. I still got to take the tissue out of the ends, and since I'm doing twisted fringes, I've got a lot of putsy little work of twisting the fringes, and we'll show you that. I may do that as a separate video just so I can show twisted fringes. Well, YouTubers, I have finally finished the double weave L-shaped shawl that I've been making. And I've invited one of my favorite models to show it for you. It's the lovely and gracious Miss Headless. And here she is wearing this shawl. I'm going to ask her to turn around and show you the back of it. Come on. There you go. As you can see, it comes up. So we've got the stripes on each side of the shawl, but at the back, of course, they come together where we had the fold in the double weave where I wove from one side to the other. And you can see the twisted fringe that I put into it. So we'll ask this young lady to turn around one more time. She's a little bit slow today. And again, you can see I've got the two sides that I wove as separate layers, and they all come together beautifully. So that's my double weave shawl. I'll stand close to this young lady and mention to you that if you like my videos, if you like my weaving and my cooking, I would very much appreciate if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks and have a great day.